Welcome to Cosmic Diaries. This is Priya, your astrologer, and welcome to a passionate full moon in Aries. We're heading to the Aries full moon, which is exact on October 20th, tomorrow morning at 10:56 a.m. here in New York. And also now Jupiter is direct, Mercury is direct, Saturn stationed direct last week, and Pluto stationed direct 2 weeks ago, exactly at the time of the Libra new moon. So this full moon, we're moving ahead along with the planets, and you can expect life to pick up pace over the next few days. There's a need now for balance above all, and self awareness and self reflection moving forward. Then you can make conscious, creative choices. This full moon is also bringing us full circle from a year ago, the Aries full moon a year ago. At the time, Mars was making a square to Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter in Capricorn. And over the second half of 2020, Mars made 3 squares to these planets. Now, at the time of this full moon, Mars is approaching a square to Pluto. So we're coming full circle. You've come a long way. You've learned a lot about yourself. How have you grown? And how do you want to do things differently now? Because this is a chance to make different choices and conscious choices. Pay attention to where you have Aries in your chart, because that's where most of this, the Aries Libra axis, that's where most of this action is playing out. Relationships are highlighted and coming to a head, and we're having to balance our needs with the needs of others in our life. Also, with Pluto in a T-square to this lunation, look at where you have Cancer in your chart, because passions are rising now. So wherever you have Cancer in your chart, that's the area of your life where you can find a balance for this energy. But again, it's all about balance, because Cancer is a water sign and Aries is a fire sign, and the moon, which is the ruler of Cancer, is in Aries. So when it comes to just on an energetic level, you don't want to pour cold water on something, but it's how to get a situation cooking in the right way. And for that, above all, one of the greatest spiritual tools we ever have is non-reaction. And especially at the time of this full moon now, non-reaction is key. Then you can respond to situations that are unfolding consciously and shape your future consciously. It's also, we're now officially in eclipse season. The next full moon lunation will be a full moon in eclipse, lunar eclipse in Taurus. And when we enter eclipse season, life tends to accelerate, time tends to accelerate, and we tend to have things speed up, time speeds up. So there'll be a sense of fated events and developments taking place now. So it's important that you're moving again in absolute self-awareness. Aries is the sign of the self. Before I get into the full moon, let's talk about Mercury and Jupiter for a second, because Mercury and Jupiter both stationed direct on the 18th of October. And Mercury, let's start with Mercury. Mercury entered shadow on the 6th of September and stationed retrograde on the 27th of September. So now, as Mercury makes its third pass through these degrees of the zodiac, we're recovering this territory for the third time, and we're making new discoveries. The past 4 weeks, few weeks with Mercury's retrograde, we've learned important truths about how we communicate in our relationships and how we express ourselves. So there have been important choices that have come up. With Libra, there's always choices. And now that you've learned a deeper truth and Mercury moves direct again, this is a chance to make new choices given everything that you've learned. But also keep an open mind, because Mercury is still making its third pass over the zodiac. So there is still more for us to learn, and there's more to a story than you know yet. So in all communication, be honest with yourself. Then it'll be easier to be honest with others. And this will, especially at the time of this full moon, that means taking time for self-reflection. Especially if something upsets you, take a deep breath before you react. Because with all, Mars is also now in Libra. And at the time of the Libra new moon, Mars was conjunct that new moon in Libra. Now Mars is approaching the square to Pluto at the time of this full moon. And Mercury, newly direct Mercury, has already made 2 squares to Pluto through its retrograde and is approaching a final square to Pluto. So this collective square of, like, Mars is square to Pluto, Mercury is square to Pluto, and the Sun just passed a square to Pluto. We are on a personal and collective level reaching a turning point. And with Mercury newly direct now, this is a chance to make different choices and to communicate constructively, differently, effectively, which means learning to also listen to what someone is saying rather than think you know everything. Because on that note, Jupiter, let's talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of knowledge, of abundance, of opportunity. It's the most benevolent planet in the zodiac. And Jupiter is now direct as well, and station direct at the same time as Mercury. So there are huge revelations coming through. And with Saturn newly direct, Pluto newly direct, we're learning our boundaries, and it's important now to get grounded and know where you stand. Again, we're moving to this Aries full moon. Aries is a sign of the self. That need for self awareness is paramount right now. Because, and this is true where you stand in the collective as well as in your personal life in whatever situations are unfolding. Jupiter, so let's talk about Jupiter. Jupiter entered Aquarius in December last year, along with Saturn. And then Jupiter and Saturn met in a conjunction in December 2020 in Aquarius. And then through 2021, Jupiter and Saturn have been transiting Aquarius. So both these planets are the teachers of the zodiac. Saturn teaches through discipline and boundaries and limits and mastery, whereas Jupiter teaches through expansion and exploration and magnification. So with Saturn newly direct, we're learning our boundaries in situations. And it's important to have integrity. And so you're building on solid foundations now. So we've been learning profound lessons wherever we have Aquarius in our chart. And now with Saturn and Jupiter direct, new doors are opening and we're seeing new ways forward. There are opportunities knocking. But for that, we have to be willing to welcome it in and invite it in. And this is, collectively as well, there's a greater awakening that's happening. And with this full moon in Aries and Jupiter's direct station, yes, it's important to know where you stand. And it's also important to understand, don't underestimate your power now to shape not only your life, but to make a change, to be a force of change in the greater world as well. If anything, Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius are acting as a great equalizing force, especially with the Sun now in Libra, which Libra speaks of balance. We're learning that no one is better than or lesser than anyone else. We're all equal. And we're all, just by virtue of being human, we're equal. So there's a need now to find your own humanity and your own integrity. If we could all just connect with that, then it doesn't matter if we can always agree to disagree. That's what makes the world, that's what helps us to grow, is to learn from each other. And from, just because someone has a different opinion than you does not make them evil, you know? It's a matter of finding that balance within yourself and knowing where your boundaries are. We can't control the world. You can make choices for yourself. And that's about the best we can do. So, and that's what we're learning now. Because then we can truly reclaim our power in situations. The last time Jupiter was at this degree in the zodiac was on the 27th of March. So look back to what was unfolding in your life around that time, because now you've seen the greater potential in situations, and there's a need now to move ahead in awareness, because Again, Jupiter teaches through the wisdom. Jupiter is a planet that speaks of wisdom, and wisdom is born of experience. So look at what your experiences have taught you and how you've grown in wisdom. With the full moon coming up, there will be important choices to be made. And there's a need now to make wise choices given everything that you've learned and given your journey over the past year since Jupiter has been in Aquarius, because now this is this third and final act of 2021. And this entire year, well, you could say your whole life, has led to this moment. But certainly embody the lessons of the past year of 2021 moving forward. And you can shape a new reality consciously. With the direct station now at the time of this full moon, there's also a need now for greater acceptance, self acceptance, as well as keeping that space open. Then you can extend that space out to others, because there's a chance now to build bridges, especially where there's been a breakdown in communication or any situations that's been there where there's been tension. We can find a greater sense of harmony now with others. Jupiter in Aquarius also speaks of the need for detachment. And when you give, because Jupiter is a planet that gives, it's a benevolent planet. And if it can't give, then it protects. So trust, have faith. Jupiter is the planet of faith. Have faith, whatever's unfolding in your life is for your best and your highest good. Gratitude would be a very powerful practice, because it is said gratitude is the highest vibration in the universe. So the more you can be grateful for everything and everyone in your life, all your relationships, because all your relationships are teaching you an important truth now about yourself. The more grateful you are, you can learn the lessons and be guided to make wiser choices moving forward. Also, when you give, especially Jupiter and Aquarius, if you give freely without expectations, or don't give at all. It's okay to have boundaries and to have your limits, and it's okay to say no. But you can afford to be generous. Just know where your limits are, then you won't feel like you won't be resentful. Because when we give with expectations, we set ourselves up for disappointment. So, honest communication is needed. Whatever arrangements or whatever's unfolding in your life, there's a need for honesty with yourself, and then you can communicate honestly with others about where your boundaries are, what your needs are, and what you want and what you're willing to give in a situation. It's coming to the Aries full moon. As the full moon aligns, the full moon marks the culmination of a cycle. So there's going to be a powerful emotional release, and it's coming to the Aries full moon. And full disclosure, I recorded the earlier section before the full moon, and this I'm recording just after the full moon because I'd recorded another section earlier, but it was a wash. It took me too long to edit, and then there was some random full moon drama. Nothing significant, but anyway, here I am again. So, with this, as we reach this full moon now, the full moon is going to bring a powerful emotional release. Full moons mark a climax, and this one being in Aries, there are very heated and passionate emotions arising. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It represents the child, the self. It's the baby of the zodiac. It also represents our sense of drive and what motivates us. It's the spark of life itself. Whatever's surfacing now, self care is very important, especially given the T square with Pluto. This full moon, it's important that you're eating well, taking care of yourself primarily. Very simply, you could just snap at someone because you're hangry. So keep your emotions balanced and take care of your inner child. If you're enjoying this energy, by all means, go for it, because relationships are deepening and there are new doors opening now. So this is a chance to deepen bonds and deepen trust in your connections and find a greater sense of harmony and cooperation. But if you're dealing with a situation that's fraught with tension, and if you're dealing with If you're feeling upset about something, take a deep breath rather than react. And it's important that you release your emotions consciously over the next 2 weeks, because as the moon wanes, we're clearing space for renewal with the Scorpio new moon. With the sun in Libra, yes, our relationships are being highlighted, but trust that if there's tension, or if you're caught in a power struggle, especially with Mars approaching a square to Pluto, let go of a power struggle. You can't control anyone else. You can't make anyone else feel any way. This is a chance to then self reflect and be honest with yourself about what you need and what you need to let go of, so you can find greater harmony within, so you can find peace within. Once you're feeling balanced, you can respond to situations with awareness. So any emotions that arise now, this is a chance to really go to the source, especially if there are painful emotions arising surrounding abandonment, or if there are trust issues, or any sense of betrayal, or feelings of loneliness, or being alone, or if there's fear, or even anger, aggression. This is all Aries energy when it's not centered and it's not balanced. No matter who or what triggers your emotions are your emotions. So, and you have a choice in the matter. You're not choiceless right now. You have options. So it's a matter of engaging consciously, or then choosing to disengage and recognizing that even no choice is a choice. If you're upset about something, back to the source. Look at your childhood. Look at the patterns that were played out around you between your parents and authority figures. Also, examine your relationship to authority, because you're not a child anymore. And this is now a chance to relate to others as an adult, as equals in the present moment. With Mars square to Pluto at the time of this full moon, we are turning a corner, and it's squares always call for that inner resolution, right? So, as you examine your relationship with authority, you can release old patterns now, really invite in something new, and deepen bonds built on stronger foundations of honesty and mutual respect and love. As the relationship is equal, there's an equal balance of give and take. And it's not really give and take, it's sharing, right? But if there are times when one person needs more support, there are times when someone else needs more support. But none of us, what the Libra Aries axis teaches us is none of us is entirely independent. We're all interdependent at best. And we're learning that actions have consequences. And we can't be selfish ultimately. No one's an island. So your choices affect the people in your life, and which ultimately will affect you. That need for self-awareness and balance is important, but be honest with yourself. Trust that the choices that you make will work for everyone involved, and this may mean upsetting the apple cart or status quo, but there you're learning, you're coming to new realizations about yourself and revelations about where your boundaries are and limits are, and what does and does not work for you. And with Mercury and Jupiter direct, Saturn direct, everything is negotiable. There are new doors opening. So it's a matter of now you learning and embodying the lessons that you've learned over the past year, so you can navigate this territory with awareness without staying stuck in old patterns, because ultimately it takes two to tango, and you're whole, but you're one half of any equation. And when it comes to relationships, you know, you are the common denominator in all of your relationships. I am the common denominator in all of my relationships. And in reality, we're always in relationship with the whole world, and any relationship, irrespective of what you label it. And we're always in relationship with the whole world at any given point. So if I want to change something in my world, in my connections, I've got to find a way to change something within myself first, even if that means walking away from something or stepping back and not engaging in the same behavior. You can't control someone else, but if you can adjust your own where you engage and how you engage, and where you invest your energy, then you can trust that, what you feed will grow. So if there's tension somewhere, just let it go. Let things balance out, and then you can move ahead. Also, very significantly, we are moving to the eclipses now. And the next lunar eclipse will be in Taurus. Taurus is the sign. Taurus and Scorpio are also deal with relationships and power and money. And so as we move ahead, loyalties are going to be tested. And there will be powerful developments taking place. Relationships are evolving at a very powerful level now. The sun is at the end of its transit in Libra. This full moon takes place at 27 degrees of the Libra Aries axis. So the sun will enter Scorpio on the 23rd, and relationships are deepening and evolving and changing. So don't be trust. First of all, Aries speaks of trust. And trust is something, when it comes to, our relationships anyway, actions speak louder than words. And trust is built through consistency and over time. More you can deepen your relationship with yourself, you'll find you don't have to hold on to anyone. Trust that the relationships that are right for you, you can deepen those bonds. And if something seems to be falling apart or falling away, and even if it means that you need to step away from something until things cool down, trust that what's meant for you will be for you, will remain in your life. You don't need to cling to anything. So, and on a very personal level, this is about trusting your own abilities, because other than relationships, Libra is also a very creative sign. So the sun opposite the moon in Aries, the energy is also very creative and filled with potential. All the planets are direct and there are new doors opening. So it's a matter now, the more you can let go of old baggage and self-doubt and work towards stepping into everything that you've become and that you're becoming. Because Aries really is the sign of being. So who you are today is not who you were a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. So this is about being authentic and true to yourself as you are today. Also, similarly, it's about extending the space to others in our life, because as you're growing and changing, so are others. So you've got to relate differently from where you're at right now, and you have to allow other space to be different and to change as well. And don't underestimate your power to be the force of change, not just in your life and in the lives of the people around you, but in the greater collective. This calls for humility, though. Then you can be elevated to a place of greater responsibility. On the greater scale, there is only oneness. So as you evolve, you can uplift the lives of those you touch automatically by the way you show up in the world, and trusting your own abilities that you can create something beautiful and create a reality that mirrors an inner truth. Finally, Venus, the ruler of Libra, the sun in Libra, is in Sagittarius. And what's called for as we move ahead is wise choices, looking at situations with the eyes of the heart, wisdom, compassion, generosity. Boundaries are good, but it's generosity of spirit, non judgment, acceptance, and recognizing that love is unconditional, but relationships are a choice. And none of us, it doesn't matter if we're understood. What we really want is to be loved. People may or may not, even those closest to us may never understand us. We barely understand ourselves. We're still on a journey of self-realization, of understanding who we are. So recognize that people, all of us, we want to be loved more than we want to be understood. If you can remember that, then you can approach life that way and promote the sense of harmony and well-being that you seek. I'm sure there's a lot more I could say, but I'm just going to stop here for now. And Of course, if you want a personal reading, please do email me at priya@cosmicdiaries.com. If you found this video useful, please do like and subscribe. It helps me, it encourages me, and I'll be back with you with more soon then. But thank you for watching, and I hope you have a safe and happy full moon, and I will catch you again very soon. Namaste.